The roads are slippery from an overnight ice storm, but last week's weather may have caused some other problems. Josh Spreiter is on pothole patrol this morning.
And President Trump is calling for both unity and a border wall in his State of the Union address. We'll have a local political science expert in studio this morning with live analysis.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 Now this morning. It is 6 o'clock now on this Tuesday, February 6th. You can see we've got a couple of schools scrolling at the bottom of the screen for delays today because of that ice. Hattie's been practicing her ice scraping sound effects. How's it going?
Oh, getting there. I mean, there's a lot of ice. Everything in the patio is iced over.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, if you park your car outside, plan extra time. Here's what it looks like. We have a scrape alert this morning. This graphic does not have any audio effects, so I thought we could do it for you.
Let's try again. Here we go.
Wow, that's
It's gonna be
not impressive, ladies. Not impressive.
It's okay, we try. A for effort. I'm serious, 5 to 10 minutes extra.
Wow.
All of the news cars overnight are just coated.
Yeah, glossed over almost.
I mean, it's thick, so be prepared for that. Any entry roads and sidewalks, parking lots are going to be pretty slippery as well. Our parking lot here at the station is nice and iced over, so be careful as you head out the door. There is still some freezing drizzle that's occurring, although it's not being picked up by the radar map. It's just too light. Temperatures are definitely below the freezing point, so any of that drizzle is freezing on contact with surfaces early today. Winter weather advisories continue for parts of the area yet this morning with that freezing drizzle. They'll be reissued later today through tonight and tomorrow for the second round of mixed precipitation that we're expecting. So again, the freezing frizzle, I guess, as I've called it, ends this morning by 9 o'clock, but then after 3 o'clock in our western viewing areas, some of that icy mixture moves back in. Highs will be around 32 degrees. Let's take a look at those traffic maps this morning, see if anything has changed. We're starting to see a few more brake lights on the maps this morning. A little bit of a brake light delay showing up right around Stoughton Road in the Beltline. A little slower as well north or southbound on Verona Road as you head from the Beltline. I looked around the area right now. The good news is there aren't any accidents to report. Travel on the interstate still looks pretty good, but be careful, especially those side roads. Back streets, they are going to be slippery this morning.
And you better get used to the sound of those ice scrapers. Sounds like we're going to be doing it for the next couple days.
Again tomorrow.
Ugh. All right. Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
So the full fleet of plows in the city of Madison, they're out salting the roads this morning, but up until then, they've been pretty busy with another street problem. We're talking about potholes.
Yeah, they're responding to an uptick in reports after our huge changes in temperatures over the last week or so. Our Josh Spreiter, he's on pothole patrol yet again this morning, live off of Pleasant View Road on Madison's far west side with more. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. So this was a big stretch the city was focusing on this week. Of course, now they're focusing back on clearing that ice and snow off of the city streets. It is just another reason to be safe out on the roads on top of slick conditions and everything that can happen during the winter. Be on the lookout for those potholes. After our extreme cold last week, we saw a major warm up over the weekend. And as the roads are freezing up again, the moisture is expanding in the roadway, thus creating those pesky potholes. The city of Madison has 6 total crews out this week, 3 on the east side and 3 on the west side. But remember, there are 1,800 miles of traffic lanes in Madison, so it's hard for the city to predict where exactly they're going to pop up next. That's why your reports at home are so important.
Let us know. We don't expect the residents to try to figure out what possible agency could possibly be in charge of this thing. Let us know. We know. We'll figure it out. We'll get it in the right people's hands so we can get that taken care of.
Another thing to note, the type of mixture they use to patch this time of the year is different from that of the hot mix they use during the summer. This stuff is basically just gravel and oil together, more of a Band-Aid fix until the city has a more permanent mixture to use once the weather stays warm in a few months. Now, after the completion of some other major construction projects like Monroe Street, for example, which many will remember how bad the potholes were on that stretch, now they can focus on some other stretches like here on Pleasant View Road and focus on other areas of the city. They say over time it kind of frees up once they can fix some of those bad roads to fix fix some of the other roads across town. Remember, if you do have a pothole that you would like to report, you can do that online, and we've put a link on channel3000.com. And Lee and Danica, as far as the roads are this morning, there are some slick spots, not too bad compared to what we saw last week, but you're going to want to take it slow so you can get to your destination safely.
Yep, and those pothole problems just going to keep happening with more changes in temperature coming. All right, our Josh Breiter reporting live. Thank you, Josh.
To the nation's capital this morning, where the president says the state of our nation is strong.
That was his message in last night's State of the Union address, highlighting the need for unity.
This is the time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens, as neighbors, as patriots.
In his speech, President Trump said progress isn't about setting a partisan agenda, but about pursuing the agenda of the American people. He touched on several bipartisan topics like infrastructure, cutting the cost of prescription drugs, and ending HIV in the U.S. But he also called for funding for his border wall and an end to the Russia investigation. Lawmakers now have less than 2 weeks to strike a deal with the president to avoid yet another government shutdown.
America is made stronger by the presence of immigrants, not walls.
That right there, that's the Democratic response to the president's address given by the former candidate for Georgia Governor Stacey Abrams. Abrams did touch on the border wall, but she focused more on bipartisanship and calling for more affordable health care, along with action on climate change and gun laws. Now, the president's speech covered a lot of ground, from immigration to foreign policy and the economy.
Dr. Maurice Shepard is here from Madison College to try to break this all down this morning. Good morning, and thank you for waking up with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we talked a little bit about how the president's speech kind of started with a message of unity, but then it turned quickly to this. You called it a threat when it comes to the Russia investigation. Sure. You know, what do you make of that, and what's next, you think?
Yeah, well, the president made it very clear. I think his statement was along the lines of for there to be peace and legislation, there cannot be, he called it sort of war and investigation.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think it was a very veiled threat. I think it was a very direct one. But what wasn't said in that statement was sort of how would that actually sort of play out. And I think if the president wanted to, he has the constitutional power to use the veto power to basically, not approve legislation, to stall, once again, funding bills and those sorts of things. So I think President Trump has made it pretty clear that, if the investigations continue, that he will use all of the tools in the presidential toolbox to protect himself.
Do you foresee us getting any of those questions answered this week, or is that something you think he'll keep close to his chest until he has to use it?
That will be something he will keep close to his chest, and it's very tricky. Again, he sort of made the this sort of threat again to members of Congress and that sort. But again, he has to think in terms of, again, not only in terms of what will happen this year in terms of developing public policy. He also has to think ahead to 2020, to his re-election bid. He also needs to think of the party because the actions that he may take, they may once again impact the Republican Party in the 2020 election cycle.
Another really interesting comment he made was on the topic of socialism, this coming on the heels of what's going on in Venezuela with the political turmoil there. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah, well,
it was an interesting transition.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
It was an interesting transition. Part of that, I think, comment is in terms of understanding Venezuela. It's a very complicated and complex sort of situation down there. So just to make the simple analogy that Venezuela it's failing because it's socialist, I don't think is accurate. But I think the larger question there, as it pertains to residents of the United States, in particular residents of individual states, is that he's sending a signal that he will not support legislation that he may define as being socialist. Well, in our federalist system, what if you have individual states that would like to put in place or expand things like public transportation, health care, once again, medical care, and those sorts of things? If members of Congress see that as socialist, but maybe here in Wisconsin, we don't see it as a socialist program, that now we have a real conflict. So I think it was a bold statement to make, but it lacks sort of background and detail.
Lots of topics to break down there. We are out of time, but Dr. Shepard, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Your time right now is 6:09, and back in Madison, the city is working on a game plan for a well on the Far East Side after tests for contaminants came back positive late last year. Last night, Madison's water utility talked about the possible solutions, I should say, to those contaminants known as PFAs. That's a group of hundreds of thousands of chemicals found in things like firefighting foam and Teflon. No wells in Madison are testing above what the federal government deems as unsafe. However, families living around the well, who rely on it for drinking water, are still concerned.
These chemicals were made, they're pervasive, they were put out in the environment, and now communities like ours are being left to deal with that. And it's not a situation we're very happy with, but we're trying to be proactive and listen to the community and get their feedback on the issue.
There is no federal or state regulation of these PFAs. However, the state is working to put out an advisory level similar to what the EPA has. The Department of Public Health says that could come as early as April.
All right, if you are a big soccer fan, but maybe someone else in the family isn't, your pro soccer team season tickets can get you some added perks that everyone can enjoy. We're talking about all of the options with one of the Forward Madison FC managers. That's next.
And you're waking up to a sheet of ice, as Hattie mentioned, to scrape off the car windows, the windshields, the mirrors, whatever. Take it slow on your way to work, too. It might still be slippery out there. Hattie's got your first alert forecast with, unfortunately, more freezing rain on the way. Next on News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio, where everything is iced over this morning. In fact, so much ice, can't even really remove it with the shovel on the patio this morning. We had some freezing drizzle earlier this morning. It is coming to an end here on the west side of town, which is great news. But keep in mind, there's still may be areas of patchy freezing drizzle throughout southern Wisconsin this morning. An icy mix is going to redevelop then later today into tonight and continue into Thursday before changing to all snow as it comes to an end. There is the potential for over 1/4 inch of ice accumulation across parts of southern Wisconsin. Our winter weather bulletins, winter weather advisory stays in effect until 9 o'clock for south central and southeastern Wisconsin. Then the entire area goes under a winter weather advisory again later today through Thursday. Here's a look at GFS Future Track ice potential. It is hinting at a narrow band of some pretty heavy ice accumulations in between Madison and the Dells, so be aware of that. That comes mainly this evening into overnight. As far as snow is concerned, this is going to be a much bigger snow event for central and northern Wisconsin than it will be here on the southern side of things, but we could see up to a couple of inches of snow for most of the area. And that may be mixed with sleet as well. Not a whole lot showing up on the radar map around here this morning. Again, there is some patchy freezing drizzle occurring. Temperatures are definitely cold enough for that. We are in the teens and 20s across the Badger State this morning. A closer look at southern Wisconsin will show you that temperatures are right around 21 in the Dells, 25 this morning in Watertown, 22 here in Madison, 24 in Monroe. Winds are from the north, around 5 to 12 miles per hour. So where there is a bit of a wind chills are down in the teens. Now, if you want to plan out this precipitation event today, again, a little bit of freezing drizzle this morning. Otherwise, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures will climb back into the low 30s this afternoon. After 3 p.m., that's when we start to see some mixed precipitation moving into southwestern Wisconsin. It will continue to track into the area by about 6 o'clock, reaching Madison. And then overnight, that freezing rain threat continues with a little bit of snow to the north and west. The rain-snow line works its way through the area tomorrow morning. So early in the afternoon, we'll see a changeover to some snow before it comes to an end. It does turn much colder behind this particular system, though. Take a look at our extended forecast. We have temperatures that will climb only into the single digits on Friday, 9 for the high. It will be windy, so wind chills will stay well below 0 through the day on Friday. More chances for accumulating snow then come on Sunday and then again Tuesday next week. So this active weather pattern continues. Now let's get a look at your first alert traffic maps with Jason Stone. Good morning, Jason.
And limited visibility while driving this morning. No incidents so far or heavy traffic causing delays on the Beltline. Verona Road between Highway PD and the Beltline is starting to have vehicles line up at the intersections, and those heading north on 14 will experience a slower commute up to the Beltline. And for those heading downtown, expect some delays on East Wash near Milwaukee and First Street. With your first alert traffic, I'm Jason Stone.
Of course, thank you. If you have any big soccer fans in the family looking to buy season tickets for Madison's first pro soccer team, we are happy to reveal some extra perks that are going to come with it.
This is pretty exciting. Forward Madison FC is starting an Unlock Madison campaign that gets you access to all sorts of activities at Breese-Stevens Field. Joining us this morning is Connor Kaloya to talk about this program. Thanks so much for waking up early with us.
Glad to be here.
Good morning.
So it is so exciting that we're having this inaugural soccer season, but there are some other perks along with this, right?
Yeah, we just rolled out a new season ticket package that gets you access to all 17 of our home matches, but on top of the Forward Madison perks that you get a team scarf and discount on merchandise, discount on food and beverage. You also get access to everything else that happens at Breese-Stevens Field. There's currently $3 million in renovations going into the facility to bring it up to the level of pro soccer. And in addition to the pro soccer games that we play there, we also have great, national concerts and food events and community festivals. And with this season ticket package, that'll get you access to all other stuff that we do at Breese-Stevens Field, early access to purchase tickets, in addition to private events with the soccer team as well.
Now, if you've never been to a concert at Breese-Stevens, it's a really neat venue. So I was there for the Darius Rucker concert a couple of years ago. Yeah. There are a couple more concerts in line for this summer that would be exciting.
Bet. So far, we've announced Greta Van Fleet, who played the season premiere of Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago, and then Toby Keith. So those are the first two that we've announced. Greta Van Fleet on June 4th, Toby Keith on June 20th, and then we'll roll out a couple more as well, in addition to all the other events
You mentioned sorry, Connor. You mentioned those renovations that are happening at the stadium. Can you let people know how those are going?
You bet. So we're on schedule. You know, we've operated Breese-Stevens Field for 3 years, but to get it up to the standard of pro soccer, we definitely need some improvements. So the most significant improvement is a new concession and restroom building. We'll have a fully serviceable kitchen that will service the entire facility, new restrooms right on the field level. In addition to that, we are adding some suite seating, some additional seating. Our seating capacity for athletic events will now be up to 5,000 people, and some additional amenities as well. So for those of you that were at the facility over the last few years, you come in this year, it'll be totally different than what you've seen. Our first home soccer match will be April 27th, and everything's on schedule for that.
Really briefly, can you tell folks where they can find more information on this?
Forward Madison FC is our website, and check it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call.
So exciting. Thanks so much, Connor, for joining us this morning.
Great to be here.
I forgot my flamingo gear. Sorry. All right. He's got us
covered with the tie. Yeah.
All right. Researchers at UW-Madison want to make sure Wisconsin's ginseng farmers can sell their crop wherever they want. We will update you on new efforts to ease some of their trade war stress.
And today is an alert day for more freezing rain and ice on the roads throughout the day. Hattie has a list of winter weather advisories. That's next on News 3 Now this morning.
Morning from the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. This is our Platteville camera. Iced over this morning. with some freezing rain and then some freezing drizzle early today. A little tough to see anything there, so keep that in mind as you head out the door this morning. You'll have to scrape your car and be careful on the roads. Winter weather advisories are in effect today for one round of freezing drizzle this morning, and then again later today for some mixed precipitation that will move into the area. Not a whole lot showing up on the radar map right now. It's just too light for that freezing drizzle to be detected by radar. There is a little bit of fog in Juneau, but otherwise visibilities are gradually improving from west to east this morning. Here's a look at your current temperatures. We're in the low to mid 20s in most spots. Janesville has been dropping, now down to 27, but Monroe's at 24, Prairie du Chien and Boscobel are at 23, and here in Madison, we're at 22 degrees. Your bus stop weather forecast, be careful this morning. The roads may be a little slippery. We're looking at another chance, especially west of Madison, for some mixed precipitation to develop by 3 p.m. this afternoon. Stay safe today.
Thank you, Hattie. We appreciate it. There is a new collaboration between UW-Madison researchers and the Wisconsin Ginseng Board to make sure those crops can be sold in Taiwan. Now, Wisconsin is responsible for 90 to 95% of all ginseng produced in the U.S. There is a significant market for the crop in Taiwan, a market that has become even more important since the president's trade war with China began. Now, in order to send it there, growers need to inspect for a soil-dwelling nematode that can infect the Taiwanese banana crop. Plant pathology professor Dr. Ann McWhitten is working with the USDA to develop a protocol to sample soil and make sure those exports are free of pests.
Okay, this is something our farm babe Pam Yankee is talking about this week. The Bud Light commercial you might have caught during the Super Bowl is causing a little bit of pushback from corn growers. This is the commercial we're talking about, the Game of Thrones themed one that promotes Bud Light brewed without corn syrup. The National Corn Growers Association is weighing in on that commercial, tweeting that it would love to talk about the benefits of corn and thanking Miller and Coors Light for supporting their industry. The head of Wisconsin's Corn Growers Association called the commercial disappointing, saying farmers are having a hard enough time without getting flack from a beer company.
Really interesting.
It is.
You wouldn't realize that or
I didn't think
about
that.
it. Yeah. All right, 525 or 625 right now, I should say. A veteran from Janesville was among those in the crowd at last night's State of the Union. Christina Laurie will have reaction from Wisconsin lawmakers who were also in the room in Washington.
And good news for your wallet. Wisconsin lawmakers are working on plans for a new tax cut, but there's some disagreement on how to fund it. The day's top stories are next on News 3 Now this morning.
The president calls for unity in his State of the Union address. We will tell you whether Wisconsin lawmakers feel that same togetherness as the threat of another government shutdown approaches.
Plus, our extreme changes in temperature are making for a pothole problem out on the roads. I'm Josh Bretter live on Madison's far west side with how you can help City get them fixed.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 Now this morning. It is 6:29 on this Tuesday, February 6th. We have 9 delays listed from our Channel 3000 Alert Center this morning. Those include places like Edgerton, Fort Atkinson, Jefferson, Whitewater. Those are all on 2-hour delays this morning because of this messy weather.
Yeah, day 2 of freezing rain, frizzle, as Hattie's calling it. We better check in with her outside, make sure she's not covered in a layer. Hads, do I need to bring out the ice scraper?
Well, yeah, an ice scraper would help maybe here on the patio. I tried to shovel it and it just no avail. There is about a ½ an inch of frozen sleet, snow, ice mixture on the ground, so it's very slippery. Any sidewalks, parking lots, or roads that have not been treated are going to be iced over this morning. Those schools that are closed seem to be to the south and east, where they saw a little bit heavier freezing rain than we did here in Madison. But again, a coating of ice on everything. Here's the view from the Edgewater Skycam. No issues with visibility this morning, although when the wind blows, you can hear it in the trees, how every single branch is icy. Doppler track is showing you that things are relatively quiet, but what's not being picked up the radar this morning is the freezing drizzle. Temperatures are definitely below the freezing point, so anywhere that you have drizzle occurring, it's going to freeze on contact with any surfaces. 22 here in Madison, 21 in the Dells, 23 in Mineral Point. Our temperatures will climb to around the freezing point this afternoon, so we're not looking at too big of a climb through the day today. The freezing drizzle will end this morning. Another round of an icy mixture is expected to move in again this afternoon and continue into Thursday. So alert days are in the forecast. We'll talk much more about amounts of ice and snow coming up in my main weather. Let's get you up to date, though, on the traffic maps this morning. We're not seeing any accidents around the area, which is great news. A little bit slower northbound on Verona Road, though, as you head towards the Beltline. Be aware that some of the ramps and some of those lesser traveled streets are likely going to be slippery this morning, so take a little extra time to get to your destination.
Yeah, Hattie, I was about to say slower as it maybe should be this morning.
That's true.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
So all this crazy winter weather we're dealing with lately has the city of Madison out patching potholes on your commute. We sent Josh Breiter out on pothole patrol this morning. He's live on the west side with a look at the roads. How they doing out there, Josh?
Good morning. So this was a stretch here on the far west side that the city was focusing on this week. Of course, this morning they're back to clearing off that ice and snow on the roadways. And this was, kind of an early start for them to be out patching those streets due to those extreme temperature changes. That's what's causing that pothole problem. What happens is we see a thaw, water seeps into the pavement, and then it freezes and expands, causing parts of the road to crumble. It happens every winter in Wisconsin, but we usually don't see a big thaw at this point in the season. Remember, there are 1,800 miles of traffic lanes in Madison, so it's a lot for the city to keep up with. City officials say it's hard for them to predict how many potholes will pop up, but reports are starting to tick up this week. Just remember, it's still winter, so if it snows or there's freezing rain like we're seeing this morning, they're going to be back to clearing off the roads.
What's great about our operations is that we're flexible enough where we can respond to this stuff. Like, oh, we're going to get 40-degree temps. Great, let's go fill some potholes. It's going to be -10 and snowing. Okay, let's get the plows out. Let's do this thing. So it's definitely early, but at the same time, we're ready for it. We can deal with this.
The City Streets Division has 6 total crews out, 3 on the east side and 3 on the west side. They typically tackle the more heavily traveled routes first, so that's why they need your help when it comes down to more of the neighborhoods that you live in. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is fill out a request online, and we put all of those details on Channel3000.com. Of course, the city isn't responsible for all of the roads going through the city, like the Beltline, for example, is under the county. But if you talk to the city, they'll try and get that information into the right hands. And of course, with all those crews out and about, make sure to give them some extra space. We want to keep them safe, and in return, keep us safe out on the roadways. And the roadways out here this morning, they are a little ice and snow covered, but as long as you take it slow, you'll get to your destination just fine. Back to you.
Appreciate it, though. Josh Breiter reporting live for us. Thank you, Josh.
Into the Channel 3000 Alert Center overnight, Madison police are looking for a woman they say is responsible for a string of robberies. Officers responded to attempted robberies at the BP and Mobil gas stations on East Washington Avenue, as well as Walgreens there. Now, the suspect showed employees a handgun at all of those places and got away with cash and cigarettes from Walgreens. Police believe she is the same suspect from a robbery last night around 6:30 at the tobacco deal store on East Washington. Now, anyone with information is asked to call the Madison Area Crime Stoppers line. It is almost 6:35 this morning. Congress has less than 2 weeks to pass a spending bill before another government shutdown.
Yep, it was a topic in President Trump's State of the Union address last night, where he urged lawmakers to break what he called decades of political stalemate. This morning, Christina Laurie has an update on Wisconsin lawmakers' reaction to that speech. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, ladies. So, Wisconsin's representation basically stuck to party lines during and after the president's State of the Union address. Republican Senator Ron Johnson is calling the speech a celebration of America. He said he felt President Trump outlined a vision for the two parties to work together and, quote, choose greatness. We haven't heard from Senator Tammy Baldwin after the address, but prior to it, the Democrat stuck to what she campaigned on, saying it's time for President Trump to keep his promise to work with Congress on legislative solutions to help Wisconsin families get the health care they need at the price they can't afford. Now, 1st District Representative Brian Stile, attending his first State of the Union as former Speaker Ryan's replacement, tweeted the president's agenda strengthens families and that he's committed to working with his colleagues to get results. And 2nd District Democratic Representative Mark Pocan was tweeting throughout the speech mostly about the ways he disagrees with the president. He tweeted a number of times that President Trump's comments about the wall were just wasted breath. Now, Pocan did find one piece of common ground, though, tweeting he can confirm there are snowy winters in Wisconsin, calling that one instance where the president didn't misconstrue the truth.
All right, Christina Laurie reporting live for us. Thank you, Christina.
One of the 3 World War II veterans the president recognized last night is a Janesville native. The Janesville Gazette is reporting this morning that Joe Riley sat behind First Lady Melania Trump last night. He was a paratrooper with the 101st Airborne Division. That division parachuted into Normandy on D-Day back in 1944. Riley now lives in San Diego. He will celebrate his 98th birthday in May.
A state assembly committee will vote later today on a GOP middle-income tax cut before it heads to the full assembly. Republicans say it is similar to what Governor Evers proposed during his campaign, but they plan to pay for it using a one-time budget surplus. Evers says he will not sign that because it doesn't have a funding solution for future years. Meanwhile, Democrats introduced a competing bill they plan to pay for, in part by capping a corporate tax credit for manufacturers.
We are less than 2 weeks away from the spring primary, hard to believe, and tonight there is an opportunity for Northside neighbors to learn more about the candidates running for Madison mayor. Moderators will ask questions about issues that directly impact Northsiders, and you'll have a chance to ask about what matters to you and your family. There's a meet and greet starting at 6. The forum formally begins at 6:30. This is happening over at the Warner Park Community Center. So you will see a new vehicle of sorts responding to crime scenes across the state. We'll show you the new mobile crime lab coming up.
And the Middleton Police Department has some pretty exciting news to share. A new member and their first ever canine. We're going to introduce you to this cutie, Zeke. He's next on News 3 Now this morning.
Welcome back. You could soon see a new vehicle on crime scenes throughout the state. Attorney General Josh Kaul says that mobile lab will be based here in Madison. It will house equipment that forensic analysts and technicians can use when they respond to those scenes. That team primarily responds to help out with homicide investigations, officer-involved shootings, and autopsies. So far this year, that group has responded to 17 different scenes, putting in nearly 580 hours of work.
Okay, here's some exciting and cute news. After months of fundraising, the Middleton Police Department now officially has its first ever canine. Yesterday, officers posted a picture of Zeke to the department's Facebook page. He's a 1-year-old shepherd mix from Europe. Over the next couple of months, Zeke and his officer, Howard Statz, are going to go through extensive training out in Pennsylvania. So exciting for them.
Most definitely.
Okay, so this is not going to be your favorite winter forecast with more ice and freezing rain on the way, but let's take a look at the silver lining, shall we? Temperatures in the high 20s, low 30s. Quite the change from last week's negative 50-degree wind chills, am I right? Hattie's first alert forecast is coming up.
First, though, it is February 6th. We want to say happy birthday to EJ, Audrey, and all the kiddos turning 3 today. Also, happy birthday to our producer, Lauren.
Yeah.
Thanks for celebrating with us here on News 3 Now this morning. Welcome back. The first state to raise the minimum age to purchase tobacco to 21 could be on the forefront of setting smoking policy yet again.
Listen to this. Hawaii is trending on Twitter this morning for a lawmaker's pitch to ban cigarette sales for anyone younger than 100 years old. What? The legislation aims to make that happen by 2024, and it excludes electronic cigarettes, cigars, and smokeless tobacco. The national smoking rate has been declining for years. The latest CDC data from 2016 says just 15% of adults in the U.S. smoke. Really interesting.
That is interesting. Your phone's GPS will be more accurate soon after scientists release a new magnetic model. They did that yesterday. That model was supposed to be released by the end of the year. It was moved up, though, because Earth's magnetic North Pole is shifting. The GPS update will make sure we can all get to our destinations and, of course, keep NASA and military programs running smoothly as well. Hattie, I don't know if we felt that shift of the North Pole or what, but things really mixing up here in the weather department.
Yeah, last week it was really off course, much further south than it normally would be. All kidding aside, though, we do have some more weather to talk about today, and it could impact your day today into tomorrow even. Alert days are in the forecast. Freezing drizzle early this morning. There may still be some patchy areas of that left. It will come to an end by 9 o'clock. An icy mix then redevelops late today and continues into Thursday before it changes over to all snow. We could see some ice accumulations tomorrow, around 1/4 inch in some spots, maybe even slightly higher. Here's a look at the winter weather advisories, again in effect this morning for the freezing drizzle, then later today into tomorrow for that mixture of precipitation that is expected to occur. So be aware of that. GFS forecast model is predicting a fairly narrow band, but some pretty heavy ice accumulations might be possible in between Madison and the Dells later today into tonight. As far as snow is concerned with this particular system, it's going to be a much bigger snow event for central and northern Wisconsin. Keep in mind, some of these areas picked up a ½ foot of snow yesterday, and they'll add to that, doubling that to over 1 foot in just 2 days for northern and central parts of the state. Here in southern Wisconsin, unfortunately, we're more on the freezing rain side of things, so our snow and sleet totals will be much lower. A look at Doppler track this morning will show you that all the precipitation has moved out of the area, with the exception of that bit of drizzle that lingers for southern Wisconsin. The organized precipitation, though, will move in later today, probably after 3 o'clock for southwestern Wisconsin. We have some snow breaking out across Denver and the Mountain West. That's our next storm system, and it will be making a beeline for southern Wisconsin later today. Here's a look at the forecast model, and again, you see by lunchtime some of that precipitation breaking out across Iowa, moving in our direction through the afternoon. Overnight tonight, still fair game for a mix of precipitation across southern Wisconsin. It will continue into tomorrow with that rain-snow line working its way through the Madison area probably about middle of the day. Here's a look at your live view from Platteville this morning. Just cloudy skies early today. Looks like the drizzle and fog have ended for that area, which is good news. Temperatures are below freezing, well below that freezing point this morning, so any drizzle will freeze. Northerly winds giving us a little bit of a wind chill early. Here's a look at your forecast then as we go through the day. Temperatures will climb to around 30 by lunchtime. We're looking at a high of 32 degrees this afternoon, mostly cloudy skies with that mix developing later on. Tonight, an icy mixture of precipitation is expected across the area. Again, some ice and sleet accumulations will be possible. The extended forecast then has much colder conditions on Friday. We're talking highs barely making it into the single digits, and windy conditions keeping wind chills below 0 through the day.
Oh,
look at this bright bird though.
There's some paradise for us.
Yeah.
Specs.
I like it.
I like that little bit of sun, too.
I wonder what Specs is saying about the weather forecast today.
Probably staying inside.
Go home, go home.
All right, thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
Morning Sprint's coming up next right here on News 3 This Morning. Stay with us. 6:52 time now for the morning sprint. We have about half a dozen school districts opening late this morning. Hattie has an alert day for more freezing rain and ice.
And Josh Spreiter is live with a look at the potholes you might be dodging on your drive into work today and how the city needs help fixing them. But we start at the nation's capital, where President Trump says the State of the Union is strong. In last night's address, he touched on unity and bipartisan topics like infrastructure projects, cutting the cost of prescription drugs, and ending HIV in the U.S. But he also called for funding for his border wall. Lawmakers now have less than 2 weeks to strike a deal with the president to avoid another government shutdown.
The president also touched on foreign policy, announcing a 2-day summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. That's set to happen later this month in Vietnam. The two leaders met in Singapore last summer to work toward denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. Just last week, though, the director of national intelligence said it is unlikely that North Korea will ever get rid of all of its nuclear weapons.
Hearing from Wisconsin lawmakers on the State of the Union, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin tweeted this picture, which we'll show you ahead of the speech, where she's walking to the House chambers with Diane Whitcraft. Whitcraft had to stop taking her medication to treat her MS because the cost of that drug was too high. Baldwin was hoping the president would talk about making prescriptions more affordable, which he did. Now, Republican Senator Ron Johnson also tweeted last night saying the president outlined a vision for Republicans and Democrats to work together moving forward, especially for a safer, more prosperous and secure country. He went as far to call the address a celebration of America.
And we have winter weather advisories in effect for the area today. Take a look from the Edgewater Skycam. No issues with fog this morning, but we have had some freezing drizzle across the region. Temperatures are definitely colder than they should, well below the freezing point this morning. We're looking at temps in the 20s, high temperatures in the low 30s this afternoon. Another messy mix of precipitation is expected to move in later today.
I'm Josh Spreiter, live on Madison's far west side this morning. Our fluctuating temperatures have made for some potholes popping up in town. The city of Madison has noticed an uptick in those reports coming in, and officials say this is a little earlier than normal. The big reason are extreme temperature changes over the last week. Right now, the city of Madison has a full crew tackling the 800 miles of traffic lanes, but they can only use a cold mix, basically just gravel and oil, patching up what they can until the warmer months. The city crews do need your help, though, in identifying those trouble areas. If you have a pothole you'd like to report, you can find a link on the Channel 3000 mobile app.
Thank you, Josh. Madison police are looking for a woman they think is responsible for a string of robberies overnight. Officers responded to attempted robberies at the BP and Mobil gas stations on East Washington Avenue, as well as a Walgreens there. They say the woman showed a handgun at all of those places, but only got away with cash and cigarettes from the Walgreens location. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers.
We're getting a look at how Jamie Kloss is doing almost a month after she was found alive outside her hometown of Barron. This photo was shared on Facebook this week in the group Light the Way Home for Jamie. You can see Jamie enjoying dinner with her grandpa, who promised he would buy her a big steak once she was found. Jake Patterson, meanwhile, the man accused of kidnapping Jamie and killing her parents, is back in court for a preliminary hearing at 11 a.m. Jamie Yukas will have live coverage from Barron on CBS this morning.
For the first time, Pope Francis is publicly acknowledging a scandal of priests and bishops sexually abusing nuns. He made those comments yesterday on his plane as he was traveling back from a historic visit to the United Arab Emirates, the birthplace of Islam, where he held a Catholic mass. The Pope says the mistreatment is, quote, probably still taking place, and that he is committed to doing more to fight the problem.
A state assembly committee will vote later today on a Republican-sponsored tax cut for the middle class here in Wisconsin before that heads to the full assembly. Republicans plan to pay for that using a one-time budget surplus. Governor Tony Evers says he won't sign it because it does not include a funding solution for future years. Meanwhile, Democrats have introduced a competing bill they plan to pay for in part by capping a corporate tax credit for manufacturers.
6:57 your time now. Let's turn it over to Jason Stone with a look at your first alert traffic. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Side streets are going to be slippery. Use caution. No incidents so far or heavy traffic causing delays on the Beltline, although the ramps are seeing more volume. We're seeing brake lights on John Nolan at both Rimrock and North Shore Drive. With your first...
Thanks, Jason. Drive safe out there.
And here's the view from the Henry Vilas Skycam this morning. Not a whole lot happening in the polar bear exhibit just yet. We've had some freezing drizzle this morning. Another icy mixture is headed our way for the afternoon. After 3 p.m., it will begin to develop across southern Wisconsin. Highs will be around 32 degrees.
Be careful on your drive home today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.